The day that I really realized that there was something wrong was when her kindergarten teacher called me and asked me if she had a bladder infection because she was going to the bathroom like 5 or 6 times in half-day kindergarten. And what I came to realize in reflecting backwards was she was avoiding. She was trying to get away.
100%.
Maybe this was dyslexia. Now, we were in an elementary school that did not say the word, really didn't know very much about it at all. And yet they blamed her for not trying hard enough, and they blamed us for not reading to her. And that one teacher that they trust and they love and they want to do anything for is telling them that they're not trying hard enough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the psychological damage, it's just, could get me upset.
This is Eryn, founder of Advocate to Educate.
And I'm Megan, founder of Dyslexia On Demand.
And together, we are the Don't Call on Me podcast.
We share what it's really like to navigate life with dyslexia, to break the stigma and bring truth to what families live every day.
It's all about the stories. The more we share, the more we heal together. The Don't Call on Me podcast is brought to you by Dyslexia On Demand and Advocate to Educate. Good morning, listeners, or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are listening to this podcast, Don't Call on Me. I have to say one of our most exciting guests thus far, Brett Tingley. Brett, welcome. Thank you so much for being on our podcast. Can you share with our listeners where you are located currently and where your child grew up?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm a big fan of your podcast and think the work is very valuable. So I'm honored to be on. We are in Ohio right now, in Central Ohio, the Upper Arlington School District. And many of you will know that is where reading recovery resides, Fountas and Pinnell. So it's a real hotbed for the conversation that we're going to have right now. So I'm the mom of 3 amazing kids. My last one is dyslexic, and we were in a school district that really just didn't understand it at all. And so we were learning along with the district. It's an amazing story, but it's also very common, and it happens time and time again. I think that what we add to the conversation is that we were able to work with our district and move them to the science of reading, and then do that at higher and higher levels. And so I'm excited to talk about that as well.
Wonderful. Okay, so before we get into what you were able to accomplish, I want to go back in your memory bank. And since this was your youngest child, you had 2 that I'm assuming were thriving in the area of reading, writing, spelling. So here comes your 3rd child. Share with us those moments in time where you recognized, all right, this isn't the same. Something's different. And what was that like? And what's your 3rd child's name?
Ava.
Ava. Wonderful.
The story has a very happy ending. She is graduating summa cum laude from undergrad.
That's so awesome.
So, yeah, we are throwing a party. Let's just say that. She was feisty, energetic, very athletic. She didn't like to read as much as the boys, was not quite as interested. But as is common with many of the guests on your show that I've listened to, nobody was terribly worried about it. They'll grow out of it. Kids learn differently. But when we got to kindergarten, I began doing some research, met some other mothers. Maybe this was dyslexia. Now, we were in an elementary school that did not say the word dyslexia, really didn't know very much about it at all. In fact, we were the first district that the widely debunked reading recovery tested children in. Mm-hmm. They used our kids as research. The day that I really realized that there was something wrong and I needed to begin looking into it was when her kindergarten teacher called me and asked me if she had a bladder infection because she was going to the bathroom like 5 or 6 times
Yeah.
in half-day kindergarten. And what I came to realize in reflecting backwards was she was avoiding. She was trying to get away.
100%.
I'm starting to really think a lot more about it. And there's a lot of emphasis on social emotional and trauma that kids come into school with. And my daughter didn't have any trauma. We read to her, in utero. She was surrounded with books. We did all the things that they told us we should have done. And yet they blamed her for not trying hard enough. And they blamed us for not reading to her. So really patronizing. And when you think about it from the child's perspective, they're horrified. They're hiding, trying not to read or in kindergarten letters and all that. And then for the teacher, that one person, they're all psyched to go to school. And that one teacher that they trust and they love and they want to do anything for is telling them that they're not trying hard enough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the psychological damage, it's just, could get me upset. So a lot of ignorance in our district initially.
These teachers telling a 5-year-old that they're not trying hard enough. What 5-year-old doesn't want to impress their teacher? Pretty much none. Unless they've already had a broken relationship with them and they don't feel loved and accepted, well, then that's a different story. But this is their formative years where the things we say to our kids during these years it is the inner voice that will carry them through.
Mm-hmm.
This is exactly when sense of self is being developed. And I will tell you that it takes a long time to reestablish that positive self-image in those critical years when they've been torn down. It's not impossible. We've done that, but it is tricky. One of the things that we've, in our documentary, we interviewed Louisa Moats, and she says, in sympathy to most teachers, they don't learn about the science of reading, evidence-based reading instruction in colleges of education. That is what I think is the root.
I agree.
There's Megan and I both. Yeah. We both in our teaching credential programs. It didn't even come up. It didn't cross honestly anything regarding reading. Like I'm a credentialed special ed teacher in California, and I took one class, and it wasn't on the science of reading. It was nothing that prepared me. And then there's an expectation that I was supposed to tend to these kids.
Well, and one of the things that we talk about is that the work that I'll talk about later that we're doing now is we're actually doing this work for the children. We're doing the work for the family, but we're also doing the work for the teachers. Teachers deserve, they pay good money. They deserve to learn how to teach kids to read. Anytime I have an opportunity to focus on higher ed, I take that.
That's really good. I know that I'm a vice president over at Alta. We are really trying to push that like as much as possible to connect with higher ed, to teach science of reading, structured literacy, and information about dyslexia at that level. And honestly, so much of the legislation as we're changing all of that, right? That's one of the big focuses that needs to happen on a state by state level is mandating that. And some states have, but when we can change it at that level, then it's that trickle down that keeps happening. A lot of administrators also need to understand a lot of this stuff too, because they're the ones who are making the decisions, school board members, et cetera, when they're making curriculum choices also. Because another thing that's happening is I'm talking to teachers who have been trained in this, but they get into an environment where their hands are tied because there is a curriculum adoption that they didn't have the ability to weigh in on, but they're forced to use it that is not based in science of reading.
Administrators start out as teachers. So the root of all of these problems are college of ed. And it relates back to our personal experience. If you have gone to college for 4 years, you've learned everything that your professors told you to learn. And there's a child sitting in front of you that if you're having them look at the picture and guess, or look at the context and guess, and they're not getting it, then you think maybe they aren't trying hard enough. There's something wrong with this kid.
Mm-hmm.
It goes back to the colleges of education.
Let's kind of bring it back just to elementary school and generally speaking, what did you go through with your daughter to kind of take it to the next level? And if you can bring up just a couple of core memories you have of that time with her.
She loved being in the same school with her older brothers. She was very close to them. Because of the background, our district was kind of known as West Campus of the Ohio State University. So it was very, very close. And that's where Read and Recovery and Fontes and Pinnell and all of that came out of. We individually tried and begged and pleaded to move them to the science of reading. We formed a parent group and begged and pleaded. And we went from principal, student services director, superintendent to the school board members. Our superintendent wouldn't meet with us. We had school board members that wouldn't talk to us. But we knew that if we came together in a group, that we had a better chance of flipping the district. But because of the historical background, we could not, they just wouldn't listen to us. So we filed the largest systemic group complaint in the state's history. And when your district finds out that they're in violation of federal law with children with disabilities, then things happen. So we were able to get a new superintendent, a new assistant superintendent, a new student services director, and we immediately moved in and partnered with the district. And we said, we want to help you build the district that will serve all children, not just dyslexic children. And we have been doing that ever since. We meet 3 times a year in something called the Dyslexia Task Force with the highest levels of the administration. And we continuously improve reading instruction for every child.
Was your own child able to benefit from this because of the timing?
Well, here's what happened. We also filed an individual due process, but I can't talk about that because you sign paperwork there. Right. But the systemic group complaint is public. That's the beauty in it. And it really creates system-wide change. We did have to send her to private school for a couple of years, but what we did in those 2 years was we worked to fix the district so that we could bring her back. And when we did bring her back, she was able to thrive. So she did benefit, not right away, but she benefited in a couple of years. So yes, she did. And then every kid behind her. That's what's so beautiful.
Definitely. I'm amazed that change was able to go into effect that quickly. That's amazing. A lot of times it takes a lot longer, but you are Mama Bear in the best way. Mama Tiger.
Well, and I think, and I talk to so many beautiful people who are like working. They're all over the place, all in their own little silo. And what we realized, really the power of what we're able to do is at varying levels, we bring parents together.
Yep.
So if you're fighting due process, they make a financial calculation. It's really gross. It'll cost us $100,000, $200,000. Get rid of this group. Mm-hmm. That's fine. Because we got insurance, we got our attorney, it's like a calculation. But you bring in 19 parents and they sign a systemic group complaint and everybody in the state knows that you are in violation of federal law. That scares people. And no other district, no other parent group in our state had to file a systemic group complaint because it was like dropping a pebble and there were all these ripples. Then all the other districts started going, this science of reading stuff is real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This federal law is real.
Tell us about how you help to lead parents. And when Brett says to call her, we've made this comment before. No matter what the name is, everyone in this group, dyslexia supporters, are here to, no one is big enough. Every single person really means it. The passion behind it is there. We really do want to help. So I know that Brett means this, but tell us about the work you've done teaching parents how to band together.
My background is engineering and business. So I look at things kind of from a financial perspective and a systems perspective. And I think that really was advantageous to me. What I saw upon reflection about the power of what we did in the district was individually, we had some power, but as a group, we were able to really make systemic change. So that kind of became my proof of concept. We fundraised $50,000. So we did on a very shoestring budget, and we made our documentary, Our Dyslexic Children. And we made that for a couple of reasons. We wanted parents to see that it could be done. So we wanted to inspire them to do this work. And I go into a big long thing about there's nothing more important than fighting for your children. And if you're not going to do it, who will? There's nobody else coming, and they've got one shot. So, it gives me goosebumps, but I cannot think, outside of curing cancer, fighting for kids to learn to read, my God. So the other purpose of the documentary was to show districts, look at what it does to these children. Look at what it does to these families. So pull at their heartstrings, make them want to make the change, but also have that stick and say, it's breaking federal law. A lot of districts didn't know that this was breaking federal law. Child Find, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, Child Find, and FAPE. Child Find's real. You have to look. You have an affirmative obligation to find children with dyslexia in your district. I saw the great power in that. And I thought, why don't we do this at the next level? So we began mentoring parent groups around us. I thought a very tight mission statement that will help any group get up and running very quickly. And it was just 7 things that we wanted to happen in the district. And we used it when we met with any of the administrators, any of the school board, anyone that we were talking to. So we were very focused about this is what we're looking for. Our home group is called UA Kid, Upper Arlington Kids Identified with Dyslexia. Our statewide coalition is Ohio Kids Identified with Dyslexia. And I think we have like 24, 25 parent groups representing over 185,000 kids in Ohio. We were instrumental in getting our statewide dyslexia legislation passed. And so I saw that as an example. Wow, at a statewide level, you can bring in dyslexia legislation. We have a guidebook. We have an Ohio Dyslexia Committee. It's extraordinary what you can do. I actually do believe if you organize, if you grassroots organize, community organize, you can change things. So that has what has driven me. So we then started an organization called Parents for Reading Justice. The idea being that it's parents who are doing this work. I don't mind. Anybody can come along with us, but it has to be led by parents. I think parents will go to great lengths to help their kids learn to read. And so that's who I find best to work with. But in reading justice, because it's not just dyslexic students. What works for dyslexic students works for all students. And so we thought, we're going in after all the babies. We're going to help them all. And justice for obvious reasons.
And it is the parents who have led all of the change that we have seen across the country in terms of, I hate saying the relevance of dyslexia because it has always been relevant, but it is becoming such more of an openly associated word with education. Like people are recognizing that we have a problem out there, and it's the parents who did that. I always say the parents in the pen, the parents' voices. There is no voice that is too small. And you're so right that when you band together, wow, what a bigger impact that has.
And this is something interesting that when you work at a national level, there are a lot of people playing in the literacy universe. and a lot of people making money off of the literacy universe, selling things or, doing research or running a school district. But parents and even educators who find out that their kids are struggling to read, it's not a day job. This is 24/7, 365. This shit is real all day long. There are more divorces than families, with kids who are dyslexic or struggling to read. Being relentless is one of my strengths. I don't care how long it takes, but once you're in my sights, we're going to talk.
Yeah, you're going after them.
And not in an ugly way, because, we use evidence and we have logic and information, but it has to be done. It is for our children, really for their lives. And so that's the attention that we bring to this work.
Yeah. It's true. And I think that also we have to remember as parents, I think it's so easy just to focus on it's a reading struggle, but it's actually such a bigger struggle because how their self-concept is so impacted. And then when it starts to snowball and that anxiety and that depression and the chance of them starting to make negative decisions to cope with those emotions, it's so much bigger. And not to try to make this a fear factor situation, but it does shine a light on the importance of us doing it right the first time.
Two things. There's like existing, there are the teachers in the school district. So our recommendation would be band together, form a parent group, come to us. I can tell you how to do it, and flip your district to the science of reading. But then, so you don't have science deniers every year coming into your district, go after the higher ed. Make it a business proposition for them. Cut off the money. Stop sending people there. Stop hiring from them and help that so that we do finally really implement science of reading.
At the end of the day, the people that are in the district, it is a financial decision for them. All of this ends up being it's truth. And we could just be naive to think it's education and don't we want the best for our children? I mean, I'm sure most parents do, but absolutely not at the district level when they're looking at their budgets and they're deciding, well, how many parents are really going to come after us for this? Like they're weighing the potential legal lawsuits, not the implications of what and how these children will continue to live out their life with this potential trauma. I will say that for my own experience with dyslexia, I absolutely suffered the trauma in my 20s that nobody would want for their children. Clearly, I've come a long way from that. And clearly I have found my way, and that's fine. But that's what pushes me to do this work, because I cannot live with the fact that there are teachers that they just don't have enough information, and they don't realize that their little comments contribute to that child's life for the rest of their life.
But I would say, and I am deeply offended when they try to treat the trauma, but they don't teach the kid to read. So what I would say was, they'd say, oh, she's so darling. We love her. She's such a good child. And
I'd say, child.
I'm so glad that you love her, because we love her at home very much. We treasure her. But you need to teach her how to read. That's where we start. I'm so upset about all of the, social emotional learning. That's what they keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Well, if that's just a Band-Aid because you're not actually teaching the child to read, then that's shame. I mean, that's disgusting.
Absolutely.
It's because they don't know. They don't know. But when they know better, we will do better, as Emily Hampton says.
Absolutely. And that piece of, you got to do both. It's a two-prong approach. You got to take care of their mental health and you have to teach them to read. One doesn't trump the other. And also, I always say a little therapy isn't going to hurt anybody. And also, I really feel that kids deserve to understand what's going on. And I'm curious, Brett, what your thoughts are with this.
Well, and for my own personal therapy, instead of being angry at those people who did this years and years ago, that's why I do this work. Otherwise, it would not be good. But for our child, we made it very clear that she did learn differently. 2/3 of kids are not getting what they need in school right now. And in fact, the other third, imagine where we would be now if those kids got good reading instruction. So we were really upfront about your teachers love you. They just don't know. Dyslexia is the problem. So if you watch the documentary, she actually says, my teachers wanted to teach me how to read, but they just didn't know how. And that broke her heart.
Yeah.
And it breaks all of our hearts. But we have to fix it. We fix it. So that's what we focused on. But, it's not a gift. We didn't sell that. And it wouldn't have been bought because it is not perceived as a gift. But what I will tell you, a fringe benefit, a silver lining, is that dyslexic kids are tough as hell.
Yes, they are.
They try so much harder than anybody else.
Yep.
They are working so much harder. So that grit, everybody wants grit in their kids right now. They want resilience. I'm telling you, that's the superpower right there.
Brett, I want you to share with us what your world offerings are. And I say world because dyslexia is not just in the United States. So the systems could be different, but parents around the world that are listening to this, you can gain a lot from what Brett has created. So can you share with us, if we just put your name on a little piece of paper and handed it to our client and we said, here, look this person up. They've got a lot to offer for you. What would they start to find?
So we had the documentary as a proof of concept. Then what we decided to do over the pandemic was to build a workbook or a roadmap to show parents how we did what we did. And we have a master class that we filmed over the pandemic that are videos of that roadmap. So you can either do it on paper or you can do it video format or both. Because a lot of people who have dyslexic kids are dyslexic. And so we wanted to have that video format. And it shows how we did what we did, various experts, Louisa Moats, Kareem Weaver, Stephen Dykstra, and parents. So that teaches you how to do what we did. Then we have a parent group database, and we are working to get at least every state to have at least one parent group. We'd like to have many individual district parent groups and then one or two statewide parent groups, because we want to, and especially right now, for example, with 504s under attack, we actually put together a 504 protection petition in Ohio, and we helped California put theirs together. I see places where we could collaborate on a national level. So we're trying to build that database. So if you have a parent group, reach out. If you want to build a parent group, reach out. And then we formed, then we have begun doing also a podcast like you all, because we want to keep the whole community abreast of what best practices are. So we have some researchers, but we also have some thought leaders. We also have parents who have success stories. And I'm excited. Kareem Weaver and I are we're co-hosting together. I invited him to come on, and he had some people that he wanted to interview. And I said, come interview with me. I'd love it. So we just had our first interview with a family in Niagara Falls, or right outside Niagara Falls, who's having a very hard time with the debunked reading recovery and kind of their experience. And so Parents for Reading Justice is our website, and that's got all of the various tools that we have to offer. If you want to go through the masterclass and then give me a call, I'm also happy to strategize on an individual district or statewide level. It's just what I love to do, that whole strategy. Do you guys know Kim Lockhart? She's a French bilingual teacher, and she's in Canada. And she has begun teaching at Vancouver Island University. And she and I have begun to do a thing where she'll show the documentary, and then she gets me on with these teachers afterwards at the beginning of their semester to help them understand why what they are doing is so important.
That's awesome.
And so I jumped at the chance to have impact on higher ed because, again, that I believe is the root of the problem. So the thing that differentiates us from a lot of parent groups is that we focus on parents coming together first at the district level. I think that's where our electoral power and our legal power, we always have the moral authority to do this work, but we have the levers that we can push really effectively at the district level. And then you have another set that you can leverage at the statewide level. And so that's kind of the second level. But I think you've got to do the district level too, because you can have amazing statewide legislation. That doesn't mean it's getting into the classroom.
That's exactly right. That's so important for parents to understand. Don't trust what's on paper, because is there a system of checks and balances that goes all the way down? And the answer is no. So I'm so glad that you make that point.
Parents provide the accountability.
That's right.
A lot of the statewide leaders are also kind of in a bubble, sort of like colleges of education. Nobody comes back and talks to them. When I suggested to my school district, you need to let Ohio State University know that they need to move to the science of reading, it never occurred to them. But with my business background, of course you give customer feedback. This is a relationship that you go back and forth. You tell them what you need. They make some modifications. The other interesting example was Intel is getting ready to build a big chip plant in Ohio. And they went into Ohio State to their engineering program, and they said, these are the things that we need in your engineering undergrads in order to help us staff our huge plant. And they said, absolutely. And I said, why in the heck should the school districts not go in to the College of Education and say, this is what we need? Why should school districts be paying to untrain, to like deprogram and then reprogram all these people that are graduating and coming into their classrooms? It's extraordinary.
Yeah.
No other system, very few other systems would buy from that supplier. It's like having a defective product coming in. You just cut that off.
That's so true. So I just want to restate really quickly how parents can find you. So the name of the movie is Our Dyslexic Children. The group that you're referring to is Parents for Reading Justice. So start at the website, and there's lots of, I know this personally, I've seen it, guides, but also a movie that helps to talk and outline the steps. And then lastly, the podcast. Did you say it's Literacy Now? Because I also want to check it out.
Yes, it's called Literacy Now. And then the one that I'm co-hosting with Kareem is called Literacy Now Together. And the idea here, I love. So you have a white dyslexia mom from Ohio, and Kareem is a Black NAACP member, teacher. He's also a dyslexic parent now too, though.
Yep.
And there's this narrative in literacy work where you work with some people, you don't really work with other people, whatever. And what we talk about is, do you love your children more than you dislike all these other people? So what we're showing, and we're intentionally trying to do some interviews that shine a light on the literacy crisis, but also that people of different backgrounds, different political views, different socioeconomic, whatever, we can all work together, regardless of all that extraneous and focus on helping kids learn to read. So I'm very excited about that collaboration. And that's on, wherever you find where your podcast.
Yeah, wherever you find all the podcasts. And it's usually all the platforms.
I specifically want to help the listeners realize that to do this work, they don't need the business background that you have, because I think that some parents get intimidated, and I want to make sure that we leave this open for them to not feel like we're just moms, like we are just moms. But I think that there is something to be said about, Brett, the framework that you have given away to enable parents.
Absolutely. All the tools that we have put together. So, of course, we are a nonprofit and we freely give all of our resources, because the last thing you want to do when you're a parent is have somebody, needing a check for something. We give everything for free. We do rely on those more fortunate to fund the work that we do.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody know a big, huge foundation that want to throw some money our way? We are happy to take it. I think that what's unique is that everything is free, but we make it so much easier. Even just this mission statement, it took us 4 months to develop the mission statement. This is yours. You just take it, you take our logo off the top, put yours on, and then every meeting that you have with anybody in your district, you introduce yourself as, we, if people want to, it would kind of be cool. We haven't really pushed this, but if you want to be like Parents for Reading Justice Chicago, or think of your own name, but just send us your name. But it makes you look bigger, makes you look more powerful, a little scarier. So you can say, here's our mission, and these are the things that we're looking for. And we want to partner with you to make this happen. The other benefit of working in a parent group is that if it does cost any money, or if it takes time, which, meeting with school board members does take time, there's not one person doing it. One person can't do it. If you can spread out the time, and like I said, if there is any cost, like we had to file this complaint, we did have to pay an attorney, but it's a lot easier sitting around a table splitting a bill for $1,000 into 10 than just one person paying for it. So the parent group and it's other people to help lift you up. So if I'm having a fire at my house, I know my friend Gail can carry that baton. It's just such an important part. It's the way that you make systemic change. And so that is what I would leave. And the tools that we provide are such that anybody can do it. It's not hard. It just takes determination. And I would say do it with a group.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you so much for being on this podcast. We are so excited for parents to hear it. If you weren't familiar with Parents for Reading Justice, if you weren't familiar with even the documentary, Our Dyslexic Children, it is definitely moving. It is worth your time. It's about 45 minutes, if I recall correctly. So go check it out and reach out to Brett. Reach out to any of us. Everyone is here to lift you up in the community.
100%. Thank you, Brett.
Today's episode is sponsored by Dyslexia On Demand. Dyslexia On Demand uses only the highest trained dyslexia therapists, and it's all one-on-one and individualized to your child's needs. The best part is that it doesn't matter where you're located because it's all virtual. Visit us at dyslexiaondemand.com to learn more.
Today's episode is sponsored by Advocate to Educate. We help parents navigate through the confusing maze of special education in public schools in California. We support families starting as early as preschool through 12th grade, creating individual education plans to support the specific needs of your unique and amazing child. To learn more, go to our website, advocate2educate.com. That's it for today's episode of Don't Call on Me. If you enjoyed this conversation, share it with someone who might need to hear it. We'll be back soon with more real stories and shared strength of living with dyslexia.